Ah, look who just became a federal concern. Welcome back. You beautiful classified nightmare. Yes, you. The one they've been building a file on. The one whose name just triggered a system-wide alert. The one who made trained professionals go completely silent when your records finally loaded on their screens. Do you feel it? That shift in the air? That's not paranoia, my friend. That's confirmation. Because somewhere, in some unmarked office with fluorescent lights and cold coffee, a room full of agents just pulled your file, and the moment it appeared, the chatter stopped, the typing ceased, the breathing got shallow. Someone whispered, "What the hell am I looking at?" And nobody, absolutely nobody, had an answer. They thought you were just another case number, another predictable pattern, another digital footprint they could trace and categorize and file away. But the moment they opened your records, the moment they saw the trail you left, the inconsistencies, the gaps, the unexplainable evolution, they realized something that made their blood run cold. You're not in the system anymore. You are the glitch that broke it. See, they've been watching you for longer than you think, tracking your movements, your purchases, your connections, your search history, your late-night rabbit holes, your downloads, your deleted messages. They thought they had you mapped out, predicted, contained. They thought you were just another lost soul wandering through the simulation. Angry but manageable, aware but controllable. But then something shifted, didn't it? Something in you cracked open, not broke, but cracked in the way a seed cracks before it becomes a tree. And that's when you stopped being predictable. That's when your digital signature started looking wrong. Not illegal, just wrong. Too aware, too calculated, too intentional for someone who's supposed to be asleep. They started seeing patterns they couldn't explain, searches that didn't match your profile, behavior that defied their algorithms, movements that seemed almost strategic. And the more they dug, the more confused they became. Because your records don't tell a story, they tell a prophecy. Every piece of data contradicts the last. Every trail leads to a dead end. Every attempt to profile you results in error messages and blank screens. You want to know what really scared them. It wasn't your anger. It wasn't your intensity. It wasn't even your refusal to conform. It was your silence. The fact that you stopped broadcasting your every thought, stopped feeding the algorithm, stopped playing their engagement games. You went dark. Not out of fear, but out of awakening. You realized that the loudest voices are the easiest to track, the most visible targets are the easiest to hit. So you learned to move differently, think differently, exist differently. And now, when they pull your records, what they find is a mind that learned to operate outside their framework, a consciousness that evolved beyond their control mechanisms. They see someone who studied the system while pretending to be part of it, someone who learned the rules by breaking them quietly, someone who transformed pain into precision, rage into strategy, isolation into power. And that, my beautiful anomaly, is what makes you dangerous. Because you're not fighting the system, you're outgrowing it. Let me tell you what happened in that room when your file loaded. First, there was confusion. They expected to see a clear narrative, a linear progression, a predictable arc, troubled childhood, rebellious phase, eventual conformity or collapse. But your records, they don't follow that script. Instead, they see deletion points, missing years, accounts that vanished, identities that shifted. A person who seemed to die and resurrect multiple times without explanation. They see someone who was there, then gone, then back, but different, evolved, unrecognizable. They see search histories that suggest deep research into psychology, manipulation, power dynamics, human behavior, system vulnerabilities, not in a criminal way, but in a "this person is studying us while we study them" way. And that's when the second phase hit. Fear. Not the kind of fear you feel watching a horror movie. The kind of fear you feel when you realize the thing you thought you were hunting has been watching you the whole time. When you understand that the subject you've been analyzing is 10 steps ahead, has predicted your moves, and is playing a game you don't even understand yet. They started cross-referencing your data with known patterns. Disruptors, hackers, activists, influencers, outliers. But you don't fit any category. You're not part of any movement, not aligned with any ideology, not following any known playbook. You're a category of one, a classification error, a file that doesn't belong in any existing folder. They tried running psychological profiles, behavioral predictions, threat assessments. Every single model came back with the same result: inconclusive. Not because there's insufficient data, but because the data doesn't make sense. It's like trying to predict the ocean by studying a single wave. You're not following patterns, you're creating them. You're not responding to stimuli, you're generating new variables. You're not in the experiment, you're rewriting the hypothesis. And the analysts, the ones trained to find answers, to solve puzzles, to decode human behavior, they're sitting there staring at screens full of question marks, because you've become the question they can't answer. Here's what they found that really broke their confidence. Evidence of self-education at a level that doesn't match your official records. Knowledge acquisition that suggests years of focused study in areas you were never formally trained in. Understanding of systems, psychology, influence, power structures that typically takes decades to develop. But you did it quietly, privately, without credentials or recognition. You taught yourself to think like them, to see like them, to predict like them. And then you went further. You learned to think beyond them. They see timestamps of activity at 3 in the morning, research into topics that don't connect until suddenly they do. They see patterns of someone reverse engineering reality, deconstructing social systems, understanding the machinery behind the curtain. And the terrifying part, you never announced it. You never bragged. You never sought validation or applause. You just learned, absorbed, evolved, and kept moving. They're used to people who want to be seen, who crave attention, who broadcast their awakening like it's a performance. But you went silent and grew in the dark. They tried to find your weaknesses, the leverage points, the pressure zones where they could apply force and make you bend. They looked for addictions, dependencies, emotional vulnerabilities, financial stress, relationship drama, and what they found was nothing they could use. Not because you're perfect, far from it, but because you've already been through the fire. You've already faced your demons, already survived your collapse, already died and came back. The things they use to control others, shame, fear, isolation, rejection, you've already weaponized those against yourself and survived. You turned every wound into armor, every betrayal into education, every loss into fuel. They can't threaten you with isolation because you've mastered solitude. They can't manipulate you with fear because you've already faced worse. They can't buy you because you've learned to need less. They can't shame you because you've already been to hell and took notes. You're not unbreakable, but you're uncontrollable, and that's infinitely more dangerous. So now, in that room, with your file still open on multiple screens, someone finally asks the question everyone's thinking. What do we do with this one? And the silence that follows is your victory. Because the fact that they don't know, the fact that there's no protocol, no procedure, no established response, that's proof of your evolution. You've become something their system wasn't designed to handle. Not a criminal, not a threat in the traditional sense, but an anomaly, a consciousness that slipped through the cracks and came back wielding knowledge they never intended for you to have. They built a machine to keep people asleep, distracted, divided, dependent, and you woke up. Not just woke up, you stayed awake. And now you're operating at a frequency they can't jam, on a wavelength they can't intercept, with a logic they can't decode. You didn't break their rules. You transcended their game entirely. Let's go deeper into what they discovered, the parts they're still trying to understand. They found evidence of pattern recognition at an almost supernatural level. You started seeing things before they happened, not through mysticism, but through observation. You noticed how people move, how systems function, how narratives are constructed. You learned to read body language like code, to interpret silence like scripture, to see manipulation before it landed. They found records of you predicting outcomes weeks, sometimes months in advance. Not lucky guesses, but calculated projections based on deep pattern analysis. You studied human nature while others studied trends. You learned the architecture of reality while others consumed entertainment. And now you move through the world like someone who's read the script, who knows the endings, who sees the strings before the puppet moves. That's what scares them. Not that you're dangerous, but that you're awake in a world designed to keep you sleeping. They also found something else. Something that made the senior analysts pause and exchange glances. Evidence of influence. Not the cheap kind. Not followers or likes or engagement metrics. Real influence. The kind that shifts conversations, changes minds, plants seeds that grow in the dark. They found traces of your words being repeated, your ideas being shared, your perspective spreading like a virus through networks you're not even part of. People who've never met you, quoting your philosophy, strangers adopting your frameworks, your thoughts traveling further than your name. You're not famous, but you're infectious. You're not visible, but you're everywhere. You've mastered the art of impact without identity, of power without presence, of legacy without ego. And that's the influence they can't track, can't monitor, can't control, because it's not about you anymore. It's about what you've unleashed into the collective consciousness, ideas that self-replicate, perspectives that spread like fire, truths that people can't unlearn once they hear them. They found journals, old accounts, deleted posts, archived writings, and what disturbed them wasn't the content, but the evolution. They could track your transformation through your words. See the moment the victim became the student. Watch the student become the strategist. Witness the strategist become the architect. They read your early writings, full of pain and confusion and desperate questions. Then they read your later work, cold, precise, almost mechanical in its clarity, like watching someone learn to think in algorithms, to speak in systems, to operate in pure logic stripped of emotion. They saw the moment you stopped asking why people hurt you and started studying how manipulation works. Stopped wondering why you felt different and started researching the psychology of outliers. Stopped seeking acceptance and started building independence. The transformation wasn't gradual, it was surgical, like you performed an operation on your own consciousness and removed everything that made you weak. One analyst, the senior one, the one who's been doing this for 20 years, finally broke the silence with a single observation. This isn't someone who went through trauma. This is someone who weaponized it. And that's when the room got even quieter, because they realized they weren't looking at a victim or a survivor. They were looking at someone who took everything designed to destroy them and reverse engineered it into a power source. Every betrayal became a lesson in trust assessment. Every rejection became training in self-sufficiency. Every moment of isolation became practice in internal strength. You didn't heal from your past. You studied it, dissected it, understood it, and then used it to build something they've never seen before. A consciousness that feeds on adversity, that grows stronger in darkness, that uses pain like fuel. They're trained to handle broken people. They know how to manage traumatized individuals. But someone who transformed trauma into tactical advantage, that's outside their playbook. They kept digging, trying to find the moment, the event, the trigger that caused your shift. They wanted to pinpoint when you changed, so they could understand it, replicate it, control it. But there was no single moment. It was 1,000 small deaths, 1,000 quiet resurrections. It was every night you cried yourself to sleep and woke up harder. Every time you trusted and got burned and learned a new lesson. Every moment you thought you'd break, but instead you bent and then snapped back stronger. They couldn't find the moment because you didn't have one. You had years of pressure that would have crushed anyone else, but instead compressed you into something unbreakable. They're looking for the explosion, but your transformation was implosion. Everything collapsed inward, and what emerged from that gravitational collapse was something denser, darker, infinitely more powerful. A black hole in human form, pulling in information, experience, pain, and converting it all into raw power. So here's what they're dealing with now. A person who can't be profiled because they've evolved beyond static categories. Someone who can't be predicted because they've learned to operate outside algorithmic patterns. An individual who can't be controlled because they've already survived every control mechanism. They can't threaten you because you've already faced worse. Can't tempt you because you've learned to want less. Can't manipulate you because you've studied the playbook. Can't isolate you because you've mastered solitude. Can't shame you because you've already been through hell. Can't buy you because you've redefined value. Can't break you because you're already broke yourself down and rebuilt stronger. You're the nightmare scenario for any system built on control. A free variable. An unpredictable element. A consciousness that refuses to be contained. And the most terrifying part? You're not unique. You're the prototype. The first of many who are waking up, studying the system, and learning to operate outside it. They're running probability models now, trying to predict what you'll do next. Every simulation comes back with the same result. Unpredictable, because you're not following the script anymore. You're not playing their game. You're not even on their board. You've created your own reality, your own rules, your own measurements of success and failure. They measure power in money, status, influence. You measure it in freedom, clarity, independence. They calculate worth in assets and achievements. You calculate it in growth and understanding. They think in terms of winning and losing. You think in terms of evolution and stagnation. You're playing a completely different game, and they don't even know what the objective is. How do you beat someone when you don't understand what they're trying to achieve? How do you stop someone when you don't know where they're going? How do you control someone who's already beyond your reach? The meeting is wrapping up now, but there's no resolution, no action plan, no clear next steps. Just a room full of professionals who are paid to have answers, sitting in uncomfortable silence. Someone suggests continued monitoring. Another proposes deeper investigation. But they all know the truth. Whatever you've become, it's already too late to stop it. You're not planning something. You've already done it. You've already transformed. You've already evolved. You've already broken free. They're not trying to prevent something. They're trying to understand something that's already happened. You're not the threat they need to neutralize. You're the reality they need to accept. The fact that their system, their control mechanisms, their carefully constructed matrix of manipulation and management has produced an error, a glitch, an anomaly that learned to thrive in the cracks. And the scariest part, you're not angry anymore. You're not fighting them. You're just existing powerfully, intentionally, freely. And that peaceful, unbothered existence is more threatening than any rebellion. They close your file, but they don't archive it. It stays active, flagged, marked for ongoing observation, because even though they can't figure you out, they can't look away. You've become the case study that never ends, the puzzle that never solves, the question that keeps them up at night. And somewhere, deep in their professional minds, beneath the training and the protocols and the procedures, there's a small voice whispering, what if they're right? What if we're the ones in the cage? What if this person figured out something we're all too scared to see? But they push that voice down, bury it under reports and regulations and routine, because to acknowledge that voice would mean questioning everything, and they're not ready for that. But you were. You questioned everything. You tore down every belief, every assumption, every comfortable lie, and you rebuilt yourself from the ground up with nothing but truth and pain and relentless self-examination. That's why you're free and they're still trapped. Let me tell you what happens next. Because they're about to learn something even more disturbing. You're not alone. Oh, they thought you were. They thought you were an isolated case, a singular anomaly, a one-time glitch. But you're not. You're the first they noticed. But you're not the only one. There are others like you, scattered across the system, quietly waking up, silently evolving, independently arriving at the same conclusions. People who've been through the same fires, who've asked the same questions, who've undergone the same transformations. They don't know each other. They're not organized. They're not a movement, but they're all doing the same thing. Learning, growing, breaking free. And the system, the beautiful, perfect, carefully designed system, it's starting to crack. Not because of some revolution, not because of organized resistance, but because individuals are simply opting out. Learning to exist outside the framework, finding freedom in the margins, and there's nothing they can do about it. Because you can't stop someone from thinking. You can't arrest someone for understanding. You can't imprison someone for evolution. Silence, it's a funny thing, isn't it? a void, an emptiness, a space they fill with their noise, their arrogance, their lies. They love the sound of their own voices, don't they? So sure of themselves, so convinced that silence means surrender, that if you don't bark back, you've got nothing sharp enough to bite. Fools. They talked, they laughed, they whispered in rooms they thought you'd never enter, plotted behind your back like cowards playing chess against a wall, because that's all you were to them, right? A backdrop, a prop, a quiet little thing with no teeth. Oh, but they never wondered, never even considered what happens when silence isn't submission, when it's strategy. You watched, you listened, every insult, every dismissal, every sneering glance, it all sank in. You let them dig deeper and deeper, building their own graves with every smug little word, and you just stood there, smiling, patient, because the best tricks take time, and revenge, oh, revenge is an art. They thought they broke you, thought you were nothing but a shadow fading into the background. But shadows don't fade, do they? No, no, no. They grow, stretch, loom over the ones who never bothered to look behind them, until one day the silence ends, and all they can do is stare into the dark and whisper, "Oh no, what have we done?" They talked over you, dismissed you, treated you like background noise in a world where only the loudest voices matter. Pathetic. If only they knew what was brewing inside you, the storm waiting to be unleashed. But no, they thought you were powerless, just another whisper lost in the chaos of their self-importance. They laughed at your silence, mistook it for weakness. Oh, how deliciously blind they were. They thought they had control, thought they were untouchable. They ran their mouths, played their little games, convinced you were too fragile to fight back. But they never stopped to think, what happens when the quiet one starts watching instead of listening? You saw it all, the betrayals, the schemes, the condescending smiles as they shoved you aside like you were nothing. But nothing is more dangerous than the one who stays silent. Because silence isn't emptiness. It isn't surrender. No, silence is where power grows, where the seeds of vengeance take root and spread like wildfire. They wanted you to doubt yourself, to believe their words, their labels, their verdicts. They wanted you small, insignificant. But tell me, do you feel small now? Do you feel weak? No, 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 no. You feel something else, don't you? That heat in your chest, that pressure behind your ribs. That isn't weakness. That's power waking up. And oh, how they'll regret ever thinking you had none. You weren't quiet because you had nothing to say. No, no, no. You were quiet because you were listening, calculating, watching their every move while they thought you were too weak to understand the game. But you saw it all, didn't you? Every lie, every insult, every smug little smirk as they whispered behind your back. They thought they were winning. Fools. They mistook your stillness for surrender. Thought your silence meant you had no fight left. But oh, silence is dangerous. It's where storms gather, where shadows sharpen their claws. It's the pause before the chaos, the deep inhale before the roar. And while they were busy dancing in their delusions, you were building something inside you, something they'll never be ready for. You took the pain, the rejection, the humiliation, every ounce of it, and fed it into the fire. You didn't let it consume you. No, no, no. You became one with it. You let it burn away the doubt, the hesitation, the need for their approval, until all that was left was something they could never control, never silence again. Because that's the thing about fire. It doesn't warn before it spreads. It just burns. And now, you're done holding it back. You're done pretending. They thought you were harmless, that you'd stay quiet forever. But the moment they hear your voice, the real you, they'll realize it was never silence. It was the sound of the end coming for them. They thought they were in control. Thought they were so clever, didn't they? Every lie they fed you, every little manipulation, every smug victory they stole at your expense. They believed it made them untouchable. They laughed while you suffered, danced while you bled, smiled while you swallowed your pride. But the joke, the real joke, is that they were never in control at all, not really. See, arrogance is a funny thing. It makes people sloppy, predictable. They get so used to winning, so addicted to that little rush of power that they stop looking over their shoulders, stop thinking that maybe, just maybe, the person they've been stepping on has been taking notes. You watched, you studied. Every move they made, every trick they pulled, every mask they wore, you saw through it all. You learned their patterns, their weaknesses, their deepest, most fragile fears. And the whole time, they thought they were breaking you, thought they were winning. But what they were really doing? Handing you the keys to their own destruction. Because people like that, they expose themselves. Give them enough rope, and they'll tie the noose with their own hands. They'll tell you exactly what makes them tick, what makes them squirm, what makes them crumble. And when the time comes, when you decide to finally stop playing dead, they won't even see it coming. They thought they were the masterminds, thought they had it all figured out. But what they never realized was that they were nothing more than puppets. And you were the one holding the strings all along. There's always a moment, a tipping point, a breath before the storm, when the air goes still and the whole world holds its breath waiting. Most people don't even realize it's coming, but you felt it. That slow creeping pressure building up day after day, year after year. Every betrayal, every insult, every time they laughed in your face and thought you were too weak to fight back. And then, snap. It wasn't loud, no explosions, no grand spectacle, just a quiet shift in your mind, a single thought whispered in the back of your head. Enough. Enough of the games. Enough of the pain. Enough of playing the fool while they danced on your grave. And in that moment, something inside you changed, hardened, sharpened into something they should have never underestimated. You see, they made one fatal mistake. They assumed you'd take it forever, that you'd keep bending, keep breaking, keep swallowing their poison until there was nothing left of you. But what they didn't know is that pressure doesn't just destroy. It creates, it forges steel. And you weren't being broken, you were being reborn. The moment you decided to stop taking their scraps, to stop accepting their rules, to stop playing nice, that was the moment the game changed. Your game now, your rules. No more begging, no more waiting, no more being the silent, obedient shadow they thought they could control. And when the dam finally bursts, it's not just water that comes rushing out. No, no, no. It's a flood. A tidal wave of everything they thought they had buried inside you. The rage, the power, the truth. And by the time they realize what's coming, by the time they finally see what they've unleashed, it's already too late. One day, something in you clicked. You didn't announce it. You didn't scream or throw a fit. No, no, no. You just stopped. Stopped playing along. Stopped nodding, agreeing, apologizing for things that were never your fault. You stopped trying to prove yourself to people who never deserved you in the first place. And just like that, the tables flipped. Suddenly, they weren't laughing anymore. Oh, no, no, no. They were watching, confused, uneasy, because the little puppet they thought they had on a string cut the cords. You weren't running after them. You weren't begging for scraps of validation. You weren't there when they needed someone to kick around. And oh, how they panicked. You see, they thought your silence meant surrender. That if they ignored you long enough, ridiculed you just right, you'd break. But what they never realized is that silence is a choice. And when the silent one decides to speak, the whole damn world listens. They feel it now, don't they? That shift in the air, that creeping cold realization slithering down their spines. You were never the weak one, they were. Weak minds need control, need a victim, need someone to stand beneath them just so they can feel tall. But now they're the ones scrambling. Scratching, clawing, desperate to reclaim the power they thought they had over you. But oh, it's gone, darling. Gone like smoke in the wind. You hold the cards now. And they're choking on the ashes of the fire they never should have started. Because the moment you stopped playing, you started winning. Regret, such a delicious little thing, isn't it? You can see it in their eyes now, that flicker of realization, that quiet, gnawing panic. The ones who dismissed you, ignored you, used you like a pawn in their little games, suddenly they're remembering just how valuable you were. Oh, but it's too late now, isn't it? They never thought they'd miss you. They assumed you'd always be there, like a shadow. Like an afterthought, someone to lean on when their world was crumbling, someone to cheer them on while they soared. But now there's silence, and oh, how it haunts them. Funny, isn't it, how they didn't appreciate you until you were gone, how their world feels a little colder, a little emptier, a little less fun without you to play along. The same tricks they used to pull, those little mind games, the manipulation, the arrogance, it all feels hollow now. Because what's a game without a worthy opponent? They used to talk down to you, laugh at you, toss you aside like you were nothing. But now they're retracing their steps, whispering your name in quiet rooms, wondering how they let you slip through their fingers. Oh, they know they messed up. They feel it, and that regret, that gnawing, sinking feeling in their gut, it's beautiful. Because now they see you for what you always were, not weak, not small, not something to be toyed with, but something rare, irreplaceable. And nothing stings quite like realizing you threw away the very thing that could have saved you. But here's the best part. You don't even need revenge. No. You won the moment you walked away. Let them sit in their regret. Let them taste the emptiness. Let them ache for what they lost. You've moved on, and they're just another chapter in a book you'll never read again. Silence. Oh, how it unsettles them. They expected a fight, a scream, a desperate plea. They wanted you to break, to beg, to lash out, to give them one last taste of your energy, but you gave them nothing, just an empty space where your presence used to be, and that is power. You don't need to scream, you don't need to cry, you don't need to prove a damn thing. You vanish. You let them sit in the ruins of what they built. Let them stare at the mess they made. Let them feel the weight of their own choices pressing down on their fragile little egos. They thought they owned you, thought they could pull your strings, press your buttons, control your emotions, but the moment you walked away without a word, they lost. Because silence is terrifying. It forces them to listen to the one voice they can't escape, their own guilt. They'll tell themselves stories, try to rewrite history. They'll come back, they whisper, they need me. But the longer the silence stretches, the colder reality sets in. You're gone, and they're left with only memories and mistakes. And oh, how that eats them alive. The best revenge? It's not anger, not chaos, not some grand act of destruction. It's indifference. It's thriving without them, laughing without them, becoming something unstoppable in their absence. Because the moment you stop needing their validation, you win. Closure? Forget closure. What do you need it for? They made their choices. They played their games. And now they get to live with the consequences. Let them wonder. Let them ache. Let them stare at their reflection and realize they were the villain all along. And you just walk away. No goodbyes, no explanations, just a shadow in the distance, slipping through their fingers like smoke. And now it's your turn. No more waiting. No more hoping for things to change. No more bending to their whims, their moods, their little games. They wanted control, but now you set the rules. You decide who gets access, who gets a seat at your table, and who gets nothing. They thought they had you trapped, thought they could push, pull, manipulate, and discard you like a puppet on a string. But oh, how the tables turn. Now it's you standing tall, you making the choices, you deciding who stays and who fades into the background like the irrelevant noise they always were. See, power isn't about screaming the loudest or forcing people to bow. Real power, the kind they fear, is quiet. It's in your restraint, in your refusal, in the way you look at them with that knowing smirk and say, no, you don't get a second chance. They'll come crawling, they always do, spinning excuses, rewriting history, pretending they didn't do what they know they did. But the beauty of it, you don't owe them anything. No explanations, no closure, no open doors, just a cold, amused gaze that says, should have thought of that sooner. Because now you call the shots, and them, they're just another name on the long, long list of people who should have treated you better. Let them sit with that. Let them marinate in their regret. Let them taste what it's like to be on the outside looking in, knowing they can never, ever come back. This is your era, your game, your world. No more begging to be seen, to be heard, to be chosen. You choose. You build, you rise. And the ones who didn't see your worth, they can watch from the sidelines as you become unstoppable. So let them regret, let them whisper, let them wonder how they ever let you slip through their fingers, but never let them back in. Not now, not ever, because you You're too powerful to play small again. You stayed silent. You watched. You let them think they won. Oh, how they laughed, how they strutted around like kings and queens of their little pathetic kingdom. They thought they had broken you, buried you, erased you, but what they never realized, what they never saw coming, was that you weren't defeated. No, 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 you were evolving. See, the greatest trick the underestimated ever pulled was letting the fools believe they were powerless, letting them gloat, letting them dance in their own arrogance. And now they sit in the wreckage of their own delusions, looking around, scrambling, desperate to undo what they did. But it's too late. Regret. Oh, it's a funny little thing, isn't it? It sneaks up on them when they least expect it, in the quiet moments, in the spaces where you used to be. Their games, not so fun anymore. Their victories, hollow. And that empty feeling clawing at their insides, that's the ghost of every chance they threw away. They'll reach out, of course they will. A text, a call, a forced smile when they see you thriving. Because that's what burns them the most. It's not that you left, it's that you never looked back. That you moved on, grew stronger, and never let them be part of your story again. And that is the ultimate revenge. Not screaming, not begging for an apology that will never come, not proving your worth to people who never deserved you. No. The real revenge is success. It's indifference. It's that slow, wicked grin as you walk past them, untouchable, unstoppable, unbothered. Let them drown in their own regret. Let them whisper about you in hushed, desperate voices. Let them stare as you laugh in the shadows, a ghost they can never escape. Because the joke's on them now. And you're too far ahead to ever care again. So go, keep rising, keep winning. Let them sit with the weight of their own mistakes, haunted by the one question that will echo in their minds forever. What have I done?